Welcome to Leadership to Go. My name is Pari Namazie. I am an executive and leadership coach and the managing partner at UNEPA. Join me as I explore leadership insights from all walks of life. Here on Leadership to Go with me, Katharina. Let me see, we were just having a chat earlier. So we must have met like some 20 years ago. And the last time I met you, which was just a few weeks ago, we had such a lovely conversation about your leadership journey, and I was so very inspired by that. So it's just such an honor to have you here and to share your story with us. So thank you for being on Leadership to Go.
Thank you, and the pleasure is on my side as well.
Yeah. And so just to run down a little through your career, actually, maybe I let you run down your career. I know you started with BMW. Do you want to give us a short?
Okay, I'll try. I started at BMW. I was taken into the trainee program. And after that, I very soon found myself in the purchasing organization. And there I did a number of things, some staff jobs, such as being in a task force when BMW tried to integrate Rover. Then I moved into a more operative role. So I did actually purchasing of electronics, which I, with the whole things combined with negotiations with suppliers and the like. So quite a challenging environment. And then my today husband, at that point in time, he wasn't yet, founded his own company. He basically registered it. And 2 days afterwards, he asked me whether I would be willing to join that company. And I said, yeah, good idea. It was also, I had this impression, I now, even if I had a good career in front of me, I had this impression, okay, if you don't do this, you are going to be sorry for the rest of your life because it's just such a good opportunity. And then we founded together a company which was basically a boutique consultancy which does analysis of automotive electronics and helps companies to improve their cost for electronics without compromising the technical quality. And we did that for almost 20 years. And then a long-standing cooperation partner of ours, which is the market leader in automotive benchmarking, not very known. The name is A2Mac1. It's really in this close automotive circle where they are very known. They acquired us. Then we stayed for another 2 years to manage the transition as managers. And then we stepped back, did some consulting still for the company. And by now this is basically gone down to almost zero. So basically we are enjoying our retirement now.
It's just so lovely to retire early. It's so lovely to sell your boutique consulting. This is what we were talking about earlier, that you don't, it doesn't just die when you retire, right? You know that what you've created, the vision, if it's products in it, at least that's continuing, that's growing. And I love the story. So it's, from employee to entrepreneur to creating this company to being acquired and now into retirement. You've done all of this within the span of how many years is that? Like 30 years?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And now at a young age, you have retired and you still, I'm going to ask that question first. What are you doing in retirement? I mean, so many people are really afraid to let go of things, and we get to retirement and we think, what do I do with my time now? So how have you made that transition?
Actually, I can tell to everybody, don't be afraid. At least that was our experience. Don't be afraid because you will have less time than ever. At least that was what happened to us. First of all, we had this gradual slipping into retirement by doing still a lot of consulting, then less and less and less. So it was a gradual transition. And then the other thing is, there's so many things you can do. We found for ourselves a second place in Italy, which is quite a considerable effort to integrate yourself there into society, to learn the language, to do all this. We travel a lot, we do sports, we are just open for new experiences. So it's not like we don't that we fall into a big black hole. It's very different. You rather feel enriched. It maybe because we and I'm always speaking a little bit for my husband as well. Maybe we did not define our total self by the professional life. So if you are still a part of your personality is still somewhere else, then it's much easier, of course.
When you say part of your personality, so I guess what you're saying is that you had a nice work-life balance to start with. It wasn't that work just defined you. You had your life as well. Is that how you're? Yeah.
No, it's a little bit different. Let's say work-life balance, basically no. When we started the company, we worked every weekend. We maybe had a holiday of 1 week per year, which is not for everybody, I could imagine. But it's rather, how do you define your personality? How do you define your inner self? Are you only the person that works for a company? Are you only the person that now founded the company? It's for sure an important part of myself, but it's not all of it. You know, that's maybe what makes the difference in that case.
Yeah. Was that also, did that make it easier to sell the company? Because a lot of people find it quite challenging. It's a lovely opportunity to have your company acquired, but letting go of that is sometimes really hard. How did y'all find that?
Yeah, could be. It was surprisingly easy. One was, of course, also the conviction that it was the right thing to do at that point in time. We were also happy because we had built up over the years a really wonderful team, young, bright, engaged people who were really wonderful, and we were just happy that this was going on and that they had the chance to go on and to grow. And that was something we really appreciated a lot. But then, and that came as a surprise to us as well, it was surprisingly easy to let go. And I can't tell you why, but it was easy.
Hmm.
Maybe because of this gradual transition.
Yeah, and also just perhaps knowing, as you say, that you built up this team, it was also their development and their growth, right? They were taking something forward for you.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. What was so I know that, as you were telling me that you were working with BMW, you had a great career over there, and yet you had this idea, or your husband, partner had this idea of starting a new company, and you took this risk,
Hmm.
and it's quite a big risk. What motivated you to do that?
I'm not really sure. I think it was really in part curiosity, and in part you live this typical life in a big corporation, and after a while, when you want to design something to make a difference, you find you always hit some little walls, like this regulation, that regulation. Um, this feeling from another manager that is maybe not the right moment to do this and to do that. So something we know, everybody knows that. It's a very common experience. And for me, I think it was really the idea, do something where it's totally in your hands and you can try to do it like the way you feel it's right. And of course, it was risky. I mean, there was a first time, and it was a lot of months, I think 9, 10 months, where we didn't really generate any income. And it was not so easy to do that because, of course, at some point in time, you feel a little bit uneasy and you say, okay, what about your financial well-being at some point in time? But we went on, we somehow managed our way through. But yes, of course, it's a risk, and you need to always consider you might fail.
And you know, I'd love to ask you about where were some of the times that you failed?
What I learned is, yes, you fail, or whatever you will call that, but there's something, very often there's something you take away with it.
Mm.
So one of the stories is that in the beginning, we did not really have this clear focus on being a boutique consultancy for cost engineering. We wanted to do a purchasing network for electronic components. And that was something which turned out to be not so easy. We got a couple of pilot clients. We actually negotiated purchasing volume for them. Then we gradually changed this approach to doing an information network, to do just only benchmarking. But what it helped us to do was we gained an incredible expertise on how the cost of electronic components is derived. We had a lot of market knowledge, and that helped us again to do all these projects in cost engineering, because that is one of the bases for doing this. So it was a failure. It didn't turn out to fly. It didn't get the number of clients we would have needed. So at some point in time, we almost abandoned that, and it went on a very low level, but it still helped us to develop our own systems and metrics and all this kind of thing, without getting too technical now. But
So what you're saying is it didn't, you know, that didn't work out, but you get, you know, you were saying that you get something out of it, but you learned from that and you turned that learning into
right,
a success, into, you know, how do I leverage that basically? Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
When did you realize that one section, maybe this purchasing part of it was a dead end and that you had to pivot? How did you realize that, or when did you realize that?
I think we realized it far too late. Um, One of the reasons is, if you really go about it, and we had quite some tenacity, then of course it goes on and it works and it works. But at some point in time, you say, okay, maybe we should focus our efforts, our attention somewhere else. Similar story was, we did a long time master data management, which is a totally different field, where you basically try to classify the components which a company has in their database. But this helped us again to be more efficient in our benchmarking activities.
Hmm. Yeah.
But again, it was something we kept on to do for quite a long time, and maybe we should have stopped earlier. But
Hmm.
that's, I think, the things you only know in hindsight.
Yeah, really interesting. You know, it's that, what is that point that you have to let it go? And I know so many companies who just keep trying. I remember one of the other boutique consulting firms that I know, they invested in a massive program of learning, that they wanted to do this
Mhm.
online learning platform, which in my opinion was already outdated when they started. But they thought, you know, we have such a great concept and such great information. And in my head, I was just looking at that going, but I don't think anyone's even going to use this because the market's changed. So
Mhm. Mhm.
really interesting. At what time did you decide that, okay, this, we have to end this now? Was it losing money from it? Was it the lack of interest? How did you take that decision?
It was very often the lack of interest. If you see it doesn't really resonate with the market, when you are a small company, sometimes it takes you a while to understand, is it really a lack of interest in the market, or is it simply because nobody knows you? And for this division, maybe you need a little bit more time. And for us, at some point in time, we felt, okay, this is something not many people buy anymore, and we should now really focus on other things.
Really interesting. And then you were telling me about this lovely Greek word, which is kairos, which is grabbing the opportunity. I don't know why Greek came into it, but anyhow, you don't have Greek roots, do you?
No, I don't. It's actually something a neighbor told us. He's 92 by now. And he said, well, it looks like you guys had always kairos on your side. Kairos is a word that means it is the right moment, the right opportunity. And sometimes, I know very often people say, if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, you need to have also a little bit of luck on your side. And I think what the people call luck has to do a lot with kairos, because yes, you need to be lucky. There need to be good circumstances for your venture, but you also need to be able to understand when the right moment is to grab the opportunity. And that's what is called kairos to me. And I think you always need a little bit of kairos to come forward.
Yeah. And Katharina, what was your kairos? If you break it down.
Definitely, definitely the approach to start my own business, to co-found the business, I have to say, because it was funny. I somehow felt I have to do this. It was really a very strong feeling when I got this. When we talked about that, it took me exactly 1 week to think about it, and then I handed in my resignation at BMW. So that was record time, I think. And that's also maybe something I can tell people who think of founding their own business. And I know that's really a dreadful choice. By now, I'm pretty convinced that it doesn't make too much sense if you are working somewhere and yes, you get your paycheck every end of the month, and that gives you a little bit of security. But it's much better to leave your former work altogether and to be 100% working for this new company, for your own startup, because otherwise you will not get this focus. Then it will always be a little bit half-hearted. At least that's my experience. And I know this is a difficult decision,
Yeah.
especially if you have financial commitments, but in my
Yeah.
opinion, that's the best way to do it.
You know, I've met a lot of entrepreneurs, and I have also met people who, they sort of come into an entrepreneurial position or a freelancing position for a while, and then they find challenges over there, and then they go back into a corporate role, and then they stay there a little, and then it frustrates them. I mean, that there's a beauty in that too, that you have that flexibility. Um, but I think what you're saying is stick with it, right? Because sometimes I don't know what that secret formula is.
Hmm. Neither do I. I think there is a very common notion, which has been fueled by all these wonderful startups in AI, in all kinds of areas, where the idea is, okay, I found my startup, and after 2 years, I'm really huge and I have so many employees and so on. And I think the bitter truth is that sometimes it takes much, much longer. And depending on where you are, it takes you rather 5 to 10 years to build up your reputation, to build up your skills, to know exactly where to focus. And there might be many people that disagree with me, But my impression is it takes much, much longer than is always told in the media. There might be examples of people who get through, who have this wonderful moment where everything explodes very, very quickly. But in my opinion, it's not the regular thing. That's exceptional, and that's
Yeah.
a very, very good development, which is not the typical thing.
Yeah. You know, I always think in life, people we talk about failure, but I loved how you also positioned it that we'll always learn something from that. And even if that company that you set up is not, it doesn't hit the real, the vision you had about growing and being this mega company, um, I think there's still learning there as well. And maybe the question that I have for you is, what did you learn in your journey? What were some of the lessons you took?
Well, actually, we already talked about it. One is you need to be tenacious, you need to stick to your goal. But on the other hand, you need to understand when is a good moment to let go, when is a good moment maybe to start something new. Um, that's very important in my opinion. Um, Now I forgot what I wanted to say, but anyway, um, um, and maybe it's not only about tenaciousness, it's also about, and of course, that's also a thin line. I think when you want to have your own business, to a certain degree, you need to be careful not to take too seriously what other people think about that. So had I heard to all these well-meaning people who told me, "Oh, but you have this wonderful job at BMW and it's so secure and it's, then maybe I wouldn't have done it." And to a certain degree, you need to say, "No, that's my way. That's what I want to do." That's the one part. On the other hand, you also need to be careful um, not to listen to others. You need to listen to others who give their feedback, who give their opinion, and you need to take it seriously
Mm.
from clients as well as from your own employees. I think that's also very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Katharina, I know time is running so fast, so we just have a few minutes, but maybe a question to you is, you've said a little bit about this, but uh, what maybe you can tell me about what has been your inspiration, either a leader that you've looked up to or what inspired you?
It's a very trivial thing. I think my husband is my greatest inspiration to me. Not only because he's a great leader, which he is, he's also a brilliant mind and he's a wonderful person as well. Very with a high level of integrity, very um, decent, and that's always been an inspiration to me. And I think you need this kind of inspiration. And when you are a leader, you also need to be an example to others.
Very true.
And that's what he always lived. And I hope I'm also somebody who tried to do that during my journey.
And I know you and I had a chat about this, but and I'm in the same boat because I also work with my husband for many years. Well, we've been together for many years and we've also worked together for many years. Has that been a problem to mix marriage and professional life?
No. And I don't know why. I get this question very often from people. How do you manage to be together 24/7 without, having problems? And it is, I think, not such a big problem. We somehow managed always, when the office door was shut, to talk about something else, to be interested in other things. And I don't know how we did it, but it somehow worked.
Yeah, really lovely. And when you were a child, did you ever imagine, is this the journey you imagined for yourself?
Hmm. I'm not really sure what I imagined myself for myself as a child, but I grew up in a household where, which was also a my father was also self-employed. He had a car dealership. So for me, this living as somebody who is not paid by a company was a very natural thing. And the other thing that was funny enough, also the same, was that my mother basically helped in the business. So it was again this couple that worked in the own company. So maybe that was something that somehow
Yeah.
was an example for me.
Yeah.
And apparently it was a good example because I did it too.
Yeah. And you said that, and I just got goosebumps because I think there's so many businesses like that that we don't pay enough attention to. Where, you know, maybe the husband has a dealership or a business or a small business, and the wife somehow is involved in it, and the children get involved in it, and it becomes in a way a family business, right? But
Uh,
you grow up seeing that, and it's really beautiful to see you know, it's sort of, it gets ingrained in us. That's
yeah,
also
yeah.
uh,
And it also gives a certain self-confidence, I think, to the kids. I give you one example because it's quite funny. There's a painter, really somebody who painted the walls in my apartment. And yesterday I got the invoice, and it was sent by email by his wife. And later that day, his son came by and gave me the key for the apartment because he's also working in that company.
I love that.
And you know, they are just doing their thing and they are happy with it. And I think it's working well because it's very, very difficult to get an appointment with them.
That is lovely. What a lovely story. You said it very nicely. Yeah. And none of it surprised you, probably, right? That,
Yeah, absolutely. I
yeah,
like that.
yeah. My last question, Katarina, is tell me about, you know, in your life, what has been your mantra?
I don't know whether I have a mantra, really. Um, Maybe in the important moments when it's getting difficult, and that was almost a common mantra between my husband and myself. It was always this, oh, well, we don't know what it is good for, but there might be a reason for it.
I love
And that helps you to roll with the punches in a way.
that. I love that. Beautiful. Katerina, really such a big thank you to you. It has been really so inspiring hearing your story, and also your humility. You have worked so hard and grown this beautiful business, and sold it. And um, I think it's lovely to see a lot of the kairos in your life. And really, I wish you much success moving on from here. And I know you're going for a long cycle ride. And so I hope you enjoy that too. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you for this nice interview.